Good afternoon, everyone. The time is 5:30. We'll call the July 26th meeting of the Mill Creek Township Board of Supervisors to order. Supervisor Block will be joining us via telephone this evening. Would you please rise for the pledge to the flag? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there any public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 4 is the administration of the oath of office for the new Mill Creek police officers. Chief Height.
Good evening. I'd like to present the following individuals to the Board of Supervisors for the administration of the oath of office as Mill Creek Township Police Officer. The individuals are Eli Perronel. Officer Perronel was a graduate of Sagertown High School and Edinburgh University. Prior to coming to Mill Creek, he was a supervisor of the Fugitive Apprehension Unit with the Allegheny County Sheriff's Office. Christopher Larson. Officer Larson is a graduate of McDowell High School and Slippery Rock University. Most recently, he was a police officer with the City of Erie School District. Justin Meisnick. Officer Meisnick is a graduate of East High School and Fortis Institute. He was previously employed as an officer with Highmark Health at St. Vincent's Hospital and the Cochranton Borough Police Department. Brandon Miller. Officer Miller is a graduate of Cathedral Prep and attended Mercyhurst University. He's most recently a member of the City of Pittsburgh Police Department as a field training officer. And last but not least, Officer Jordan Query. Officer Query is a graduate of the Traverse City High School and Northwest Michigan College. He was employed as a sheriff with the Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office in Michigan. With that, I'd like to request the chairman administer the oath of office at this time.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Gentlemen, would you raise your right hands and repeat after me? I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I will discharge the duties of Mill Creek Township Police Officer in Mill Creek Township, Erie County, with fidelity. Congratulations. Okay, Chief, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for one more round of applause for those that keep us so safe every day?
Sure can.
It's a nice group of people.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Okay, item 5 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the July 12th meeting. Is there any comments or questions from the board?
Motion to approve the minutes from the July 12th, 22 regular meeting.
Is there?
And I'll second.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 6 is approval of the bills. Any comments or questions from the board on the bills?
I'll make a motion for approval of the bills.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 7 is the second quarter financial presentation. Our treasurer, Mark Zakshewski. Mark?
Thank you. In keeping with the practice that we established a couple of years ago now, I am presenting a quarterly report to the board and to the public at home so that we have a certain degree of transparency in our financial reporting and where we stand as a township. When we look at the revenue comparison, we're pretty much so on track. We're ever so slightly behind on the real estate taxes, but that could be more due to things like a timing difference between receiving delinquent taxes one year versus the other. What I do for the budget is I take the prior year's actual collection rates and apply it to the things like real estate taxes and other taxes and income taxes, because they don't follow a linear path. So in order to try to get some comparability, I try to use some sort of formula that will present a more accurate reflection. We're at $12,460,000 for the actual real estate taxes, and the budget would be $12,500,000. So that's $60,000. It's pretty close. And then income taxes last year was 2.5, almost 2.6. We're at 2.4. It's a little bit behind, but that should catch up as the year goes on. The grants reflect the receipt of the second tranche of the ARPA funds at $2,300,000, $2,930,000. We won't have that next year, unfortunately, but we're making the best use of it as we can right now. In comparison to last year, we're actually running a little bit ahead in real estate taxes from our actual collections last year, both in real estate taxes and in EIT. The other categories are all pretty comparable. When we look at expenses year to date, we are under budget in the public safety and public works. We're over budget in the admin and planning, and we'll go through some of those reasons as we go forward. In comparison to last year, the expenses are up, but they were expected to be up, and they're planned accordingly. We look at administrative expenses. Salaries are pretty much right on track. There's $9,000 to the good. It would be a little bit higher because there was an unfilled position for most of the first half, but we had a carryover. The accounting clerk was here through the end of February. That wasn't initially anticipated in the budget. So that gap would have been a bit bigger had that been different. Health insurance for the admin group is running favorable, about $30,000. Other benefits are tracking pretty much along the line. That would be things like workers' comp insurance, FICA taxes, those type of things are also favorable. And our legal expense is running just under $97,000 to the good. We just need to get the bills a little bit quicker. When we look at planning development, their salaries are really good. There's an unfilled position in the planning department. Been there since March, and so that's creating a favorable variance there. One of the problems is with health insurance is that it's great for a budgeting tool, and overall we're in good shape. But when you break it down to any one department, if you got one person in that department that has a certain particular health issue, their particular budget is going to be out of whack a little bit. And that is the case with the planning department. They're roughly $44,000 unfavorable. Their other benefits are running favorable, about $2,000. Public safety, salaries are running favorable. That is, so the new officers, they are just here now. Matter of fact, they're not even showing up with these numbers yet because they just started and their first pay was this pay coming tomorrow, Thursday. So none of their numbers are really in there. That's part of the reason why we're running favorable there. Health insurance, there's a big pool of people that provide the budget for the police department. And at this point, they're running $100,000 to the good. That's really helping us when we look at all the other departments where they're either unfavorable or running a lot closer to budget. Other benefits are roughly $24,000 to the good, and the contribution to the fire departments is right on track. That number will grow as the year goes on. The fire departments have to provide financial information in order to get their LSD allocation. And their second quarter is just ending. We've just processed in July 2 requests for LSD monies. So those numbers will change again, but they always lag. Even when we get to the end of the year, we'll pull those expenses back into 2022, even though we won't pay them until sometime in 2023. Public Works is running favorably, about $58,000. And that is due in part, there's some retirements coming up, so there's going to be some additional expenses with those employees that are retiring as they exit. Their health insurance is tighter, it's favorable at $88,000, and the other benefits are also running favorable at about $16,000. Snow removal expense is still under budget, and that's because we expend all the money generally in the first quarter and maybe a little bit in the fourth quarter, nothing in the second and third, but the budget doesn't allow us to pull that expense in. Public services, salaries are right on track, and their operating costs are favorable about $55,000. Parks and Rec also has a favorable $16,000 salary variance. That's in part because there were two positions budgeted and we've only filled one. Their health insurance is actually running slightly unfavorable by $2,200 or $2,300. And their other benefits are favorable, 10.6. When we get to sewer revenue, their revenue is pretty much on track to budget, and their operating expenses as well. Administrative expenses on track, slightly below budget, and their revenue over expense is slightly better than budget due to some of the capital projects not moving along quite as quickly as would have been anticipated for the budget. Look at specifics. Actual revenue is $4,881,000 roughly, and the budget is $4,835,000, so close. Wages are favorable by about $30,000 and running very close to last year's actual. Maintenance and repair is an area where there's a huge improvement since last year. Last year was just really a bad year for things like grinder pumps and breakdowns and all those kinds of things. We had $564,000 roughly of maintenance repair through the first 6 months of last year. This year it's $192,000. So that's a huge, big plus for this year. And utilities are running on track, up from last year, but still on track relative to budget. The sewer improvements is the area that things are running a little bit behind. The budget was for roughly $475,000 to be completed at this point, and we're at $252. We've also kept the machinery and equipment spending down somewhat relative to the budget. The budget was 377, and we spent roughly 204. Part of the problem with getting some of the equipment is just getting equipment. They make it as fast as they can, but you're in line with everybody else.
That's true.
And then when we get to the capital plan, we had a budget of $10.7 million, and we've committed roughly $3.6 million. A lot of this uncommitted is going to remain uncommitted. It's for projects that aren't going to, at this point, we know aren't going to get completed this year. Mostly things that the planning department's working on. They're just, without the state aid going hand in hand, those projects are going to lag until such time as those revenues come in. But there are other projects that are actively working on a large variety. I show committed because we haven't spent all the money yet on the streets paving, although we have let the contract, so therefore we are obligated for the balance of the contract of $6.6 million, part of which is covered by liquid fuels, about $1.6 million. So the balance of that comes from the general fund. Any questions? Questions?
None here, Mark. Thank you. Great presentation.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Zaszewski for the presentation and making sure all of our residents know exactly what kind of fiscal place Mill Creek Township is in, which is a very healthy position. So thank you very much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item 8 is bids and quotations. First item would be a vehicle auction bid award from Public Works. Mr. Donikowski.
Thank you. The township received a bid on the 2008 Ford Escape that the township recently held a public bid opening for. We received a bid from Rocco Zaccanino with a price of $178. Due to the age and the condition of this vehicle, it is my recommendation to award this bid to Mr. Zaccanino for the price of $178.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
Make a motion to approve the sale of the vehicle.
I will second that.
Thank you. Mr. Block, how do you vote?
I will vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a front loader for the Millfair Compost and Recycle Center. Ms. Zelina?
Public Services requests approval for the purchase of a 2-yard front wheel loader for the Millfair Compost Center. There was a quote from 5-Star Equipment of $158,445.24. This is a capital budget item. This is also a grant reimbursed item. I recommend the purchase of the John Deere 444P wheel loader. 5 Stars is a CoStar's vendor. CoStar's contract 44000-19965. This front loader will replace the 2006 Case front loader, which we will be trading in. The front loader is used on a daily basis at Millfair to load brush into the grinder and also load resident vehicles with product.
Thank you, Judy. Any comments or questions from the board on this purchase?
Dan, I had a question. I see on there's a trade-in
That's correct, there is.
for $35,000. Was that the same piece of equipment we were discussing earlier, just regarding possibly selling that outright, or was that something different?
No, that's the same piece of equipment, Mr. Block. Yeah, after some discussion, we've determined that is a fair trade-in price, and that it'd be best to go ahead and trade that piece of equipment.
Very good. Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Dan.
Yep,
Thank you.
no problem. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
You have a second.
Okay. Mr. Block, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the software contract extension and server migration contract for the police department. Mrs. Clear?
Yes. apologize, Mr. Chairman, I was looking something up. Okay. The police department is seeking signature approval for a server data migration and software update from Tyler Tech New World on all police use services, 14 in total, 14 servers in total. The cost is a one-time charge of $21,625. Also submitted is a 5-year extension of our contract of software, support, and licensing at a near 40% reduction from the current rate, with incremental increases that average 3% per year. So I'll make a motion to approve the software contract extension and the server migration contract with Tyler.
I'll second that.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is item 9, Popeye's Sketch Land Development Plan. Mr. Waldinger.
Yes, thank you. This was presented to the Planning Commission at their regular meeting of Tuesday, July 5th, 2022. I know that the board is aware of it. For the benefit of the audience, a sketch plan is something that is submitted by a potential developer for a parcel that they're looking at developing. Before they go forward and spend a lot of costs on the full engineering and design and a full submission, they can submit a sketch to get comments from the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. It is to be noted that this is being submitted for comments only. There'll be no vote taken tonight and no approval or denial. If they wish to move forward, they'd have to submit a full application, and then it would be presented to you as such. With that said, at their regular meeting, the Planning Commission made the following comments and suggestions. They state that Popeyes would not have good access, that it will increase traffic in the residential neighborhood, and individuals wanting to access the restaurant from the south must travel through a neighborhood. The residential roads would not withstand the wear and tear from the increased traffic. This was based on a traffic count performed by the township and the developer's estimated business traffic count. The proposed site is small, and they felt the developer did the best they could with it, but they also have concerns with more traffic accidents on Spires Drive due to increased traffic. Those were the comments from the Planning Commission.
Okay. Thank you. Is there someone here to speak on behalf of this project? You come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Bauer. I'm with SBRE Commercial Real Estate. I appreciate your time tonight. I'm here representing the developer and owner who lives in Florida.
Okay.
So
If you could you be a little bit closer to the mic so we're having a hard time hearing you?
Is that better? So I do have some information for you. You may already have it. Have you received copies of the site plan? Do you have those with you tonight? Or would
We
you
do.
like another copy?
Mhm.
Okay, I also want to give you 2 other pieces of information. May I do that?
Pardon me? Okay. Thank you. I'll send those down. Here's the next one.
So the information I just gave you, can you hear me better now? Thank you. So the information I just gave you is, one is a support letter from Paul Lori, who is in the backyard of the Mattress Firm property. He was going to be here tonight, but he had a conflict, so he wanted me to give you a letter of his support of having Popeyes and what he thinks it would do to enhance his business and the businesses that are around the property. So that just, with due respect, he wanted me to give that to you tonight. The other report that we have, we compiled this in January because we were going to come before the board sooner with the Popeyes project. And this is a vacancy report of all the vacancies in the Mill Creek Mall and all the vacancies from the Mill Creek Mall up to the Interstate 90 corridor. And this would be all retail property. And it's some pretty significant numbers if you flip back to the back page. There's about 19.3% vacancy in the Mill Creek Mall. And there's, as you can see, along the Peach Street corridor, there's close to 250,000 square feet of vacancy. And when you look through this report, it's certainly not one location, it's multiple locations. So with that, that's another reason why the developer and owner wanted us to come back another time and try to, be able to develop this property, because he's also been sitting on 2,892 square feet of vacancy at the end of this 3-unit plaza, which he redeveloped for the mattress firm. Financially, the mattress firm nationally struggled. He had to redevelop the property a second time, and that's when we put Zoomtan in, and now he's faced with a third vacancy and a vacant lot. So with that, I talked to the folks in the crowd at the planning meeting, and I want to go on record again, say I'm not here to try to convince or coerce or argue with anyone that it's the best use of the property or the highest use of the property, and respect that, not every neighbor wants commercial development in their neighborhood. But I also know from representing big companies like Sheetz and Camping World and lots of other big players that when we knock on your door and we tell you you're going to get 5 times more for your property if you're willing to sell than your house is worth, that's when they do like us. So with respect, though, I do realize not everyone's in favor of the project.
Thank you.
So are there any questions I could answer, or do you want to just let everyone else come up?
I don't have anything further.
I don't have any questions either, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, we usually allow.
Is there anyone in the group tonight that would wish to speak on this topic? Okay. Please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Michelle Corey. My address is 1925 Marmon Drive, and it is the property that has Mattress Firm in my front yard. So out my front door and window, I see that. And she didn't go into anything to affect the traffic. That is the issue for everyone. Great, she told us about vacancy rates. I sent a letter to Popeyes years ago when they first tried getting in here. Why don't they go next to, what's the place at the mall? Sonic? Where Sears was. That's a place in Mill Creek that's vacant. That's perfect for where they want to go. It's not going to affect traffic and affect the neighborhood. Now, as regards to vacancy, I didn't mind when Mattress Firm went in, when Buybacks was there, or Zoomtan. It's not bringing 300 additional cars in front of my house. It's the traffic that we are concerned about. It's not the vacancy. Well, I'm concerned about the vacancy. What goes in, it'd be great if you could have something, but not 300 vehicles. You can understand if that were going in your front yard, how you would feel. I understand that a business doesn't mind. That's going to bring more business to him. But it's in a residential neighborhood right across the street. So as regards to the traffic, there's going to be more accidents as from the July 5th meeting, what they had mentioned, not just on Spires, but also on Marmon. And it's going to be more traffic and accidents on Peak Street and Interchange. Have you ever gone on Interchange trying to take a right onto Spires? It's very dangerous because people don't slow down. They think you're turning at the Peach Street. And then when you try and get in from Peach Street onto Marmon, that is very dangerous also, because people that come out of that parking lot, they don't look left for traffic coming. They look to the right and then they go. So we've had to stop for people coming out of that parking lot. So then you have enough room for maybe 2 vehicles to be on Marmon at that stop sign to take a right. It's going to get so backed up in that parking lot that people are going to take a right and go through the neighborhood. Even if they do put up those cement barriers, if they have a four-wheel drive vehicle, they're just going to go right over it. It's not going to matter. Just like somebody mentioned at the last meeting, they go over that median that you have set up on Peach Street if they want to take a left, or if they from Marmon onto there, or even from Peach Street, they'll take a left over that divider to get into that plaza. So it's going to be a lot of accidents.
All right.
And that's the same with getting out of the plaza, going on to Spires. There's room for maybe 2 vehicles to the stop sign, and then you can only take a right. So it's gonna get backed up either way. I don't see how it can work at all with 300 vehicles trying to get out. It's not gonna work.
Okay. Ma'am, before you go, would you mind signing that ledger there on the podium? Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address the board on the Popeyes plan? Sir, please come on up to the podium. Mind stating your name and address for the record and also sign the ledger for us, please.
My name is Dean Moon. I live at 6023 Spires. My wife and I are both against Popeyes being there. Like I stated before, same fact she said, plus the litter. I just don't want to see it come in.
Okay, sir, thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to address the board on this item? Okay. Matt, did you have any further comment at all?
Yes, I do. After review, the Planning and Development Department recommends the following comments be communicated to the developer. Although the site is situated at the corner of 2 state routes, there is no direct access to these routes. Instead, access is being proposed on 2 residential streets. There are medians on both Peach Street and Edinburgh Road that prevent cars that are approaching from the south from entering the site. The developer has proposed methods to guide traffic leaving the site directly to the state routes, but has no control over the means used to arrive at the site. The most direct and likely route to arrive at the site from the south would be to utilize Avon and Spires drives, traversing through a residential neighborhood. Based on the estimated traffic counts provided by the developer and actual counts taken by township staff, proposed traffic would more than double, and in some cases more than triple, existing traffic volumes on these residential streets. Consequently, the proposed site does not have adequate means of ingress and egress to handle a drive-through restaurant. A formal land development application for this use on this site would not meet the criteria for an access permit as required in Mill Creek Township Code, Section 125-54. And lastly, the township would welcome a Popeyes in this area and encourages the developer to explore other nearby sites which would have access to roadways that are capable of handling the amount of traffic that would be generated.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Any further comments from the board at all? Okay. Hearing nothing, we'll move on to the next item, item 10. Resolution 2022 R33, a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015 R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. And this month it is NPD dashcam videos to be deleted between July 27th and August 9th of this year due to reaching the end of the required retention period.
Make a motion to approve the disposal of those township records. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Block, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And is the Hoffman Development Tax Assessment Appeal Settlement. Attorney Shaw?
Yes, this is a settlement of a tax appeal. I believe it's for an individual residential property. It appears that when the Tax Assessment Board did their assessment for the year, they applied the wrong common level ratio. So the parties have gotten together and corrected that, and that's the basis of the settlement. The document you have before you obviously needs to be amended to add the township since we are a party, but they don't have a signature line at this point. So I would recommend that the township approve the settlement and give the solicitor authorization to sign this settlement on its behalf.
Okay, any comments or questions from the board?
We made
I
a
would-
motion.
Yeah, let me just
Okay.
add, just clear for the record, that the new assessed value would be, the original assessed value was $142,450. The new assessed value is $122,018. Yes, go ahead, proceed with the motion.
Okay. Make a motion for Attorney Shaw to sign the adjustment in the appeal settlement.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 12 is the sale of a trailer from the Erie County Repository for unsold properties. Mr. Zakshesky?
Yes, this trailer actually is on the rebound, so to speak. It was on the agenda a few meetings back. It was rejected because it was condemned by our code enforcement department. The change that brings us back to this trailer is now the trailer park owner is trying to acquire title to the trailer, so you can either renovate it or demolish it. But until he gets title, he can't really determine what he wants to do. So it would be my recommendation that we go ahead and approve the sale from the repository, subject to an agreement that they have either condemn or repair that trailer within a reasonable period of time.
I think instead of condemn, maybe demolish, I would suggest.
Is that, oh, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Is that, do we know if that language is in the sale itself?
It's not in the, no, because the repository doesn't, they're just selling the trailer. They don't, that would be our stipulation, so that we have some, more teeth for an enforcement action to get him to do what he said he's going to do.
Do we need to formally change the language in this then, like by motion?
Yeah, what I would suggest is that the motion would be that the township approve the sale subject to receipt of a acknowledgement or signed acknowledgement or agreement from the proposed owner that they will either demolish or renovate in accordance with the code the property with a date that would be set by code enforcement.
Okay. I will make a motion with those stipulations to approve that sale of the trailer.
Thank you, Mrs.
I'll
Clear.
second that, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Bach. All right, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 13 is a stormwater management plan and maintenance agreement for 2240 West 8th Street, Nomar, Erie. Mr. Waldinger?
Yes, thank you. As you mentioned, this is for a property on 8th Street where someone wants to build an office building. They've submitted a land development plan titled Nomar Erie. The developer is Nomar Erie LLC. They have submitted a stormwater management plan to the township. It has been reviewed by Greenman Peterson Incorporated, our designated third-party engineering firm. They have stated that it does meet our stormwater management ordinance. They have also submitted a stormwater management maintenance agreement as required under the ordinance. It is signed and on the proper form. So at this time, I would recommend that the board approve the stormwater management maintenance agreement with Nomar Erie and also accept the stormwater management plan.
Thank you, Mr. Waldinger. Any comments or questions from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the stormwater management plan and the maintenance agreement.
I will second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 14 is a vacancy board appointment. Mr. Bach?
Thank you, Mr. Olet. As was announced at our last meeting, is a opening on the vacancy board vacated by Father Dedish as he accepted a position out of town. Thus, he's no longer able to serve as a Mill Creek resident. A name came up, Mr. Brian McGrath, a longtime Mill Creek resident and also a former township supervisor. His name was brought up as perhaps being willing to serve. I contacted Mr. McGrath, and he said he was willing to serve in this capacity. So I would like to make a motion to approve Brian McGrath as the vacancy board appointment in lieu of Father Dedish's resignation.
Thank you, Mr. Bach. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 15 is an appraisal for the Presque Isle Gateway project. Attorney Shaw?
Yes, we have a proposal for an appraisal to be performed on a property within the Gateway District along 8th Street. We have two values or two potential options. One is a market value as is, and one is a market value as is of a going concern. The quote on the first one is $2,950, and on the latter would be $3,950. I would propose that the township move to approve this agreement and the course of action be determined by the Director of Planning and Development.
Thank you, Attorney Shaw. Any questions or comments from the board?
I will make a motion for the appraisal for the Presque Isle Gateway project to be performed.
I will second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving on to Treasurer Communications. Mark, anything?
I have nothing further.
Thank you. We do have a hiring request for public services. Judy?
Okay, Public Services would like to hire Samuel Peterson for the new Communications Coordinator position. Samuel would have a start date of August 1st, 2022. I recommend the hiring of Samuel Peterson as Communications Coordinator for Mill Creek Township. He comes to us with a bachelor's degree in marketing and a bachelor's degree in integrated strategic media communication. He has an excellent education, work experience, and the technical skills we are seeking to move us forward.
Thank you, Judy. Comments or questions from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I would just like to make I just want to make a quick comment. I also, I'm going to, of course, make a motion to approve the hiring of Samuel Peterson as our communications coordinator. This is a new day in Mill Creek, people. Take note. Please put this August 1st in your calendar as the day that Mill Creek enters into the 21st century. We are going to be communicating with our residents in a new way, in numerous new ways. We're going to be so in your face, you're just going to tell us to get out of there. We're going to tell you everything that's going on, and we're going to make you excited to be a part of this community. So I'm really excited about this position, if you couldn't tell. Thank you very much, Ms. Salina, for all your work on this and creating this position with us.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
You have a second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Oh, yes.
And I vote yes. Executive sessions were held on July 14th and the 21st to discuss various legal issues. Solicitor Communications, Mr. Shaw?
Nothing on my end.
Thank you. Next item would be citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens that wish to address the board? Sir, come on up. Yep. Voting. You state your name and address for the record, please.
It's Richard Griffith. The address is 5020 Saybrook Place, Erie, Pennsylvania. And I just have a question for the solicitors and for everyone who's here. Where exactly do we stand on putting out to bid the stormwater retention project at 5020 Saybrook? I know that there's been a lot of work done by the engineering department, and I'm very thankful for that. But it seems like it's just dragging his feet right now, and we definitely want it done before winter. And so I believe it went to the solicitor and for approval. Is that where it stands now?
I think I can speak to that. It did go to the solicitor's office, and someone from his office did return comments. Ann's going through those now and making those changes. So we are close. I don't know that we have an exact date that it'll be out to bid, but it should be within the next couple weeks, I would assume. And the goal is to have the project done this year, absolutely.
It's almost August, and I appreciate the fact that we all want it done before the weather changes, but just check it.
Understood.
Right.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. Just so you know, I've also signed several agreements for easements with your neighbors, so all that legwork is done, and it's just, yeah, we're getting close.
Yeah, I have checked with the neighbors to make sure
Okay.
they were signed as well.
Yep,
So
yep,
this is my next check.
gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? All right, I will second the adjournment.
We have a second.
Okay, all right, the time is 6:17. Good night.
Thank you.